What happens when no one believes in you? When your coach sends you to the bench, you can throw down athletic dunks like this and still get healthy DNPs every single night. When you've averaged 16 points on 52% shooting for an entire NBA season, but end up losing opportunities on the same team, let alone let that team be the one that drafted you with the 7th overall pick and the same team you won a championship with your rookie season. And you're just let alone wondering, what more can I do to actually get minutes on my NBA team? Well, that is exactly what Jonathan Kuminga was dealing with on the Golden State Warriors. It did not matter what this dude was doing on the basketball court or what he was averaging. He could never crack the rotation and be a solidified starter on the team. And what did that end up leading to? Trade demands and contract holdouts. And a confused fan base wondering, what is the disconnect between the players, coaches, and front office here? But where did this all start? When did the Golden State Warriors coaches and front office stop believing in Jonathan Kuminga? You would think it was after he got drafted as a rookie into a championship contending team, right? Well, no. As a rookie, he played 83 games including the playoffs, averaging 8.8 points on 51% shooting, getting 16 minutes a game. And he would even start in 12 games during the regular season. So it's clear, when Kuminga was a rookie being brought off the bench on a contending team, the Warriors had no problem with him. But were the Warriors expecting him to just sit there and be at that level of play for the rest of his career? I mean, you were the ones who drafted him 7th overall in the draft, right? Wouldn't you expect him to develop into a player that would become a more critical part of your team? Especially with the aging Steph Curry, you want someone to step up and take some of that scoring lift off of his shoulder. Well, in Kuminga's second year on the Warriors, he would get a little bit more of an opportunity and show some improvements, improving 5% on his NBA three-point shooting. However, come playoff time, Kuminga was nowhere to be found on the court for the Warriors, only playing in garbage time minutes and getting healthy DMPs in most of the games. And the fans and community only getting hasty and generalized answers on why he wasn't playing. It was very obvious at this point that there was something wrong to Steve Kerr about Jonathan Kuminga. So Kuminga was coming into the next season with a point to prove. He would prove it, only playing 26 minutes per game, averaging 16 points and 52% shooting. And he would show flashes of a superstar. Look at this stretch in back-to-back games in late January, early February. Absolutely ridiculous production coming from Kuminga. Looking like the superstar he knew he could be if he was given the right opportunity. He was an athletic freak, and he was starting to be extremely efficient from the floor. But regardless of all of this, Steve Kerr still had a hesitancy to play him in clutch games, consistently getting benched in the second half of close games and only playing in the first half. How can you expect a player to develop the correct way if you keep benching them in close games and not giving them any of that clutch experience? But despite all of this, Kuminga would still end the season having the best season of his career so far, having all of those numbers that we just talked about and starting in 46 games and playing in 74 for the entire season. And now next season, Kuminga is going to be more experienced and we might see him play more for Steve Kerr. He would go on an insane scorching stretch, having back-to-back 34-point games in late December 2024. But right after that, he would deal with a right ankle sprain that would keep him out until March 10th, 2025. And during this injury, the Warriors would trade for Jimmy Butler, which is a player that plays the exact position as Kuminga. And so it's pretty obvious that the Warriors are going an entirely different direction than Jonathan Kuminga, who could have stepped in and developed into that Jimmy Butler role, but instead they went out and got Jimmy Butler himself. And going into the playoffs, Kuminga's role was diminished back down to that role player off of the bench, and he didn't even play at all in the playoffs against Houston. But in the second round against the Timberwolves, Steph Curry would go down with an injury, and he would be ruled out for the rest of the series against the Wolves. And the Warriors would lose every single game without Curry, but Kuminga was going off in these games the first time he's allowed full reign in the playoffs. Look at this game: 30 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists on 61% shooting, 3 for 4 from 3. He almost led the Wolves to the win. They only lost by 5. And the Warriors fans were saying, why weren't we playing Kuminga all of these other series against the Lakers last year, against the Rockets this year that went 7? Why is he not playing after showing this amazing performance? And now he was going to be a restricted free agent going into this offseason, and everybody knew it was going to be messy. They couldn't reach a deal, and it was a contract stalemate. Nothing was being signed. The offer from the Warriors was not matching what Kuminga's camp wanted him to sign. But right before the season, on September 30th, Kuminga would sign a $48.5 million deal with the Warriors as a restricted free agent, which would kind of bridge that gap in between contracts. He would start the season playing minutes and actually scoring a lot of points and playing consistently for the Warriors. But then he would deal with a bilateral knee injury that would sideline him for a good amount of games. And when he came back from that injury, it was healthy DMP time again for Kuminga. It was clear that the Kuminga Warriors saga was probably over as the trade deadline was approaching. And he would deal with a left bone bruise on his knee, and that would was just the cherry on top for the Warriors. They would trade him to the Atlanta Hawks for Kristaps Porzingis on February 4th, 2026, going into an entirely different situation. With the Hawks trading Trae Young to the Wizards, it was basically a wide open roster for anybody to step up and cook. And Jonathan Kuminga had been waiting for this moment for years after being benched, getting healthy DNPs because Steve Kerr just did not like the way he meshed with the system for the Warriors, did not like his defense, whatever it was. He was finally given the opportunity. And you can tell, just look at him checking into his first game on the Hawks. He's walking out there with that confidence, that swag. He just looks like he actually wants to be there. He's ready to hoop. Little run out, Kuminga with the ball on his head. That is the face of a man that is happy to be freed from the Steve Kerr terrorism. And in his Hawks debut, only 24 minutes off the bench, coming off an injury, 27 points on 75% shooting. Oh my goodness. And he would even follow this up with a 17-9 game and another 20-7 game before re-injuring that knee again. But nonetheless, we know that he's way more happier now being in Atlanta than being on the Warriors. And we can't wait to see what he does in Atlanta. Subscribe, like, comment on the video.